Welcome, everyone. I'm very happy you could join us for our monthly 30 Minutes with the GEDI Exchange webinar series. We're keen to introduce you to one of our member companies, KA Imaging, to discuss the future of X-ray imaging. But first, we at the University of Waterloo want to acknowledge that we live and work on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. The University of Waterloo is situated on the Haldeman Tract, the land promised to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Hi, I'm Bridget Maloney, and I'm the Managing Director of GEDI here at the University of Waterloo. GEDI is the university's gateway for enterprises to discover innovation, and more about that later. We created the GEDI Exchange to bring together leading enterprises with some of the best and brightest startups and scale-ups associated with the University of Waterloo and with its graduates. Again, more on the exchange later. For today, we'll be focusing on the theme medical X-ray imaging. What does the future look like? To begin that discussion, I'd like to welcome our guest from the GEDI Exchange, Dr. Karim Karim, Chief Technology Officer at KA Imaging. Dr. Karim is also a faculty member at the University of Waterloo. In a moment, he will introduce himself and his company before addressing this theme. I'd also like to welcome our special guest, Carla Girolametto, the Director of Research, Innovation, and Clinical Trials at Grand River Hospital, and have her introduce herself, how she's collaborated with Dr. Karim, and what she's seeing from a frontline perspective. Then at the end, we'll go through audience questions. Throughout the webinar, please send your questions via the WebEx Q&A by clicking on the Q&A in the bottom right corner of your window and select all panelists before sending. This event is being recorded and it will be uploaded to the university's YouTube channel. So now I'd like to turn it over to our guests to introduce themselves. So let's start with Karim to talk about himself and his company. Karim, welcome.
Thank you so much, Bridget, and thank you to GEDI and the University of Waterloo for giving us this opportunity to speak at this event. So I'm Karim, and as you mentioned, I'm a founder and CTO, Chief Technology Officer for KA Imaging. Well, also I'm a professor at the University of Waterloo and the Executive Director of the Center for Bioengineering and Biotechnology. Now, KA Imaging is a University of Waterloo spinoff. It was started about more than 5 years ago. It was spun off by actually 3 University of Waterloo alumni, myself, Amal Karnik, who's the CEO, and Sina Ganbarzadeh, who is the lead design engineer. The company is located in the Kitchener-Waterloo region, has grown now to have more than 20 full-time employees, plus another 10 part-time employees, and has created some new X-ray technology that we'll talk about today that is both FDA cleared and Health Canada approved. And I'll pass it over to Carla to introduce herself.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carla Girolametto, Director of Research, Innovation, and Clinical Trials at Grand River Hospital. Thank you to the University of Waterloo and GEDI for the invitation to speak and to once again being able to partner with Karim and KA Imaging on this talk. I do work at Grand River Hospital, and Grand River Hospital is located almost downtown Kitchener, between Kitchener and Waterloo. It's a very large community hospital, one of the largest in Ontario. We have 3,500 staff and over 600 physicians. We have over 600 beds. And we have 15 clinical programs and a variety of regional programs, such as our regional renal network, as well as the Grand River Regional Cancer Center. Our focus has been on providing care to the patients within our region, as well as in recent years to really focus on research and innovation. I think we're a bit of a hidden gem of community hospitals focusing on research and innovation. It's been a great partnership with the University of Waterloo, as well as with local companies like KA Imaging.
Fantastic. Thank you both very much for joining today. We're really excited to have you speak on this topic. So I'll move right into some questions that I'd like to pose to you to launch the discussion. So the first one is around X-ray machines and their capabilities. So really, I mean, the way in which one gets an X-ray by going to a clinic or a hospital and the appearance of the machines don't seem to have changed much in many years. So what's suddenly so new? Karim, perhaps over to you for this one.
Sure. Thank you, Bridget. So X-ray has been around for more than 100 years, actually 120 or some odd years since Röntgen first discovered it. There's 2 billion X-rays taken every year. So literally 1 in 4 people is getting an X-ray. It's literally like the air we breathe as far as medical imaging and diagnostics is concerned. The challenge for X-ray is still the same. You see the same image that Röntgen used to see 100 years ago. And those are tough to diagnose from. That's led to the emergence of new modalities like ultrasound and CT and MR. But really, X-ray fundamentally has not changed until now. So what we've been doing at GEDI Imaging is, instead of thinking of X-ray from a black and white perspective, we have started to make use of an interesting property that in every X-ray beam, there are many different energies contained. And we are now starting to make use of those energies that are inside the X-ray beam. Much like sunlight contains different colors like red, green, and blue, X-ray also contains different energies. You could call it the X-ray equivalent of red, green, and blue. And we're starting to make use of that to help us make better diagnostics.
Fantastic. So Carla, if you have anything you'd like to add or comment on, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm happy to move to the next question. So another question we were hoping to pose to you. So, you know, as most people, I'm no expert at reading an X-ray image by any means. It always seems so hard to understand, and it's so fuzzy. So is that changing at all? And if this is so much better, what's hindering adoption?
Absolutely. Okay, so there's 2 parts to this. So about 40 years ago, some very smart physicists discovered this comment I made about different energies being contained inside an X-ray beam. And they created a prototype, and even companies have started to build this, and it's called dual energy. And what it really means is you're looking at the different energies in the X-ray, and you're using that information to find something new in the body. For example, when you look at a regular black and white X-ray image, the bones and the soft tissue are sitting on top of each other, and sometimes you cannot tell the difference. And so what dual energy really does is it allows you to separate the materials. You can separate the bone from the soft tissue. So you can see an image that is just bone, or you can see an image that's just soft tissue. Now that's really important for diagnosis. And I'll give you an example. The easiest example is heart disease. When we talk about heart disease, one of the early indicators of heart disease is calcium in the coronary arteries. The problem is, of course, calcium on an X-ray appears like a little bit of a white smudge, if you will. In a regular X-ray, you may not see it because of the overlying lung soft tissue. You may miss it completely. But with dual energy X-ray, because you can separate the bones, which are made of calcium, from the soft tissue, you can now see the calcium distinctly, right? So that has huge ramifications for medical imaging, and especially for early detection of cardiac disease. You can make the same argument for cancer, for pneumonia, for tuberculosis, even for low and middle income countries. So innovation, and that's really the innovation in dual energy. Now the second part of your question was, what's hindering adoption? Innovation is all around us. I think all the universities, the companies, the startups, they're constantly coming up with new ideas. But the biggest, I think, the biggest thing that's limiting adoption is actually how our healthcare system is geared to integrate new innovations. We're very good at getting the best price for existing innovations. But in terms of being able to absorb new innovations in, like for example, and so GEDI Imaging has come up with a better X-ray, right? It's going to improve diagnosis in cancer. It's going to improve diagnosis in cardiac disease. But you're going to get reimbursed at the exact same rate as a regular X-ray. So hospitals don't have, or even imaging centers don't really have a direct incentive to adopt it. They have to adopt it for something else, and then some change has to be made in the system. So really right now, I would say that's probably our biggest hindrance for adoption.
Thank you. Very interesting, Karim. Thank you. Carla, would you like to comment on that topic?
Yeah, definitely. Seconding everything that Karim has said, we have had the advantage of actually partnering with Karim and KA Imaging on their first clinical trials at Grand River Hospital. It's really a point of pride for us as a community hospital to be able to participate in this research. It gives the opportunity to frontline clinicians to really try, pilot, have a say in the trial of the innovation that's being proposed. And I think that one of the most important pieces to take away from this is that early buy-in from the clinicians, where they see firsthand what the innovation is capable of doing. We've seen that with this clinical trial. I think that from a healthcare perspective in Canada, the way that healthcare is funded, the way that the procurement rules around procurement of new innovation, those are all pieces that can definitely be improved. There can be different innovative procurement models that we can definitely benefit from, not just at Grand River, but definitely overall in the healthcare system, to adopt new and innovative treatments that can benefit the population.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla. That's really insightful for the audience to hear. I'd love to ask, with, now with more places where X-rays could be done, does that mean more experts are needed to read them? Or, could that could be quite expensive and impractical, or is there a new way of reading them? And perhaps, Karim, I'll direct that question at you.
For sure. So absolutely, as X-ray imaging and all medical imaging is becoming more and more important for clinicians to make diagnoses, there is a demand for more readers, like radiologists. The only problem is we're not turning out as many radiologists as perhaps the need might be. So people have started looking at alternatives. One alternative is alternate imaging services, sometimes offshore. People have started to look at that to get the imaging services done. Other things that people are looking at are things called radiology extenders, where people who are not trained in radiology but are trained to read specific images are now starting to come in. The challenge really is with X-ray, because X-ray, even though it's such a simple image, can sometimes take a long time to read, especially for something tricky. And what we're trying to do at KA Imaging is, by providing dual energy, we're trying to make things more efficient so that the radiologists can read more efficiently than they could in the past. Of course, there's other alternatives with machine learning, which I think is a separate topic. But yes, but for now, that's really what we've been doing as well in the market.
Okay, thank you, Karim. I'd like to then actually add on to that previous question, and you started to allude to it. So how does AI play a role, and how will that affect the professionals involved?
So I think I'll let Carla take that one, because she's got first-hand experience with the professionals involved.
Yes, we're actually very excited because at Grand River we have actually been able to really partner on quite a few initiatives that already include AI, specifically with pathology, for example, and some of the other professors within the within CBB and the CREATE program, specifically at CBB. What is sometimes being seen as a bit controversial in terms of AI and the role of the physicians and the clinicians, and what would AI sort of do to that role of the clinicians, is actually being very welcomed at Grand River with our clinicians and our pathologists, where they're actually seeing how the role of AI is to augment and enhance the role of the physicians, and really to support the either detection or the diagnosis or the screening of various type of diseases, for example. So the same would be with the KA imaging and their detector, and the way that potentially AI would come and augment the way that the images are being produced and taken, and then the radiologist would still have their integral part in the interpretation and the diagnosis.
Very interesting. Thank you. Karim, do you have any additional comments that you've seen from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. In the early days of AI, there was always a concern that AI is going to take jobs away and whatnot. The reality, though, is AI is a second reader. It's an assist to the radiologists. And it's now, I think, only starting to see, like we're starting to see the real kind of interest from the radiologist community. They're seeing it as a way to make themselves more efficient, more accurate, and in fact, one of the most telling indicators there is FDA. There was some news out in this past week where they're starting to take off the hard restrictions that they used to have on AI. There, in fact, even talk of, for example, AI products not having to go, especially for imaging, not having to go through the same regulatory process as they've done in the past. And so that's just, I think, kind of indicating that AI can make healthcare systems more efficient. It can make radiologists more efficient. It can help us manage our burgeoning healthcare costs. In a sense, it's a win-win for society. And I think everyone's kind of coming on board with that.
Thank you. Thank you both for that. I must say, it's really wonderful to see an application of leading edge technologies just really benefiting day-to-day, people, just all of us around the world. So, last question, I'd like to know how or why partnering with the University of Waterloo made such a difference.
Well, absolutely. So being at the University of Waterloo, having done my undergrad and my grad work here, and obviously being a faculty member, I can attest firsthand to the University of Waterloo's IP ownership policy. That, I think, is a very, very powerful incentive for startups because it's inventor-owned. It definitely encourages people to pursue their innovations to the next level. And of course, the big source of co-op students, I can tell you, KA Imaging has benefited from a steady supply of Waterloo co-ops over the past 5 years. And we've been very happy with all of them. But at the same time, the culture at the university is very collaborative. The graduate programs are very strong. We get a steady supply of very trained and qualified staff that we can leverage, especially engineering staff. So all in all, it's been a wonderful partnership.
That's fantastic to hear. Thank you. And Carla, do you have any comments on that question?
Yeah, absolutely. From hospital perspective, we are probably 3-4 kilometers down the street from the University of Waterloo. So for us as a community hospital, meaning not a teaching, not an academic hospital, but yet a hospital that is innovative and a hospital that is very innovative with data sharing, with some of the procedures that we're doing, having a partner like the University of Waterloo has been a phenomenal experience. And we continue to benefit from the collaboration with the creation of the CBB and having this group of phenomenal professors and students. We have co-op students that are coming through our hospital. And so it's the perfect partnership for us as the clinical partner, as well as with the academic partner, to be able to really do meaningful research and studies and innovation that really can benefit the patient that we care for and that we treat in our hospital.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to hear this fantastic example of a multi-way partnership that is really going to have real impact on society and on health. So thank you so much. I really want to thank you both, to you, Karim, and to you, Carla, for spending time today, for your insights. Hopefully the audience learned as much as I did about where medical X-ray imaging might be headed. So with that, I'd love to move over now to the audience Q&A. So we've got some questions coming in, and I really want to thank the audience as well for your engagement and submitting questions, actually both in advance of the webinar through the registration and currently during this webinar. So I have a selection of questions to pose. And, Carla and Karim, you're both welcome to contribute to the question. I'll try and direct each one to one of you to start. And perhaps we'll try and keep the answers somewhat short to allow for a maximum number of questions. So I have the first question here, and it's for you, Karim. So we'll send the first question your way, and it came to us through the registration process. So because digital diagnostic imaging yields quick results, could we see portable units in ambulances or remote locations, or is portable diagnostic imaging cost prohibitive in these applications?
No, absolutely. That's a great question, Bridget. But before I answer that question, I just want to add a little bit to your last question, which was with Waterloo. Of course, we've had a great partnership, but I also want to emphasize that GRH has been and continues to be one of our strongest supporters. They believed in us when we were a very small startup. They were the first clinical trial we've had in the world. And the results from that trial really are what have propelled KA imaging to all that it's been able to accomplish today. So I have to definitely acknowledge GRH and the wonderful, and especially Carla for being such a great collaborator.
Absolutely, good to hear. That's great.
Yeah. And now to the question of portability. So Xray is becoming more and more accessible. And what's driving it is primarily our demographic. As we see Canadians getting older, we're starting to see folks who don't necessarily want to be dragged off into hospitals. You're seeing the same problem in long-term care homes. Right now with COVID, those folks can't really be going into the hospital on a whim. And so in a sense, the diagnostic has to go to them. So point of care is a big, big driver. And this has already happened in other developed economies, like in Japan, for example. There's a big push towards creating more point of care. And it's absolutely possible for Xray to be point of care. In fact, the FDA cleared a handheld Xray recently. It's just a little device about that big, weighing about 5 pounds, and it generates X-rays. It's like a little X-ray camera. And if I had my detector with me, you would see it's basically another 5-pound device that you can carry in your hand. So for 10 pounds total, you can wander around and take X-rays at your will, assuming you meet the safety criteria. Now, is it cost prohibitive? I would say cost is not really an issue in volume, because when we're talking about making Xray more point of care, you're talking about a natural increase in the volume of devices needed. So costs always come down. Today's Xray may be a little expensive, but as we see the volumes going up and prices are coming down, this could be very, very affordable. In a sense, I would draw attention to things like AEDs. Years ago, we never thought that an AED could ever be put into every building. Today, it's commonplace to find automatic defibrillators in pretty much every building. So the same thing could be done for X-ray. You could see these portable X-rays being used in airports, in malls, in train stations, at expensive government buildings, right? Like you could use it, and they would be good for diagnosing infectious diseases, for falls, for fractures, for the elderly, pneumonia, right? So absolutely, I think this is really the future.
That's an exciting future. That's very exciting. Thank you. Carla, next question is, I'll direct the next one to you. So more broadly than in the area of X-ray technology, what drives Grand River Hospital to adopt new innovative technologies?
Well, this is a phenomenal question, and really, I really appreciate it. I think Grand River Hospital specifically is positioned in a very advantageous geographical location. We are in a region that thrives on innovation, on startups, medical startups, medtech companies. We are also really surrounded by great universities, the University of Waterloo. Specifically, we have a different partnership with the local campus of McMaster University, the medical school, where we have residents and students, medical students that come through our doors. So all of this gives us really the push to participate in innovative initiatives. We have worked over the past 18 years, 20 years in really putting Grand River Hospital on the map in terms of being that welcoming, innovative hospital. We have created an infrastructure of being able to support research and innovation. We have the expertise in-house to bring innovation and really do that partnering between clinicians and academics or startup companies, which I think is our strength. The collaboration really is the strength of our hospital, being able to partner the different stakeholders and the different skills that everybody brings at the table in this wonderful collaborative way, the barn raising type of way that it's typical of our region, really, and being able to foster that spirit of innovation. We've seen that with the KA imaging trial where the whole medical imaging department embraced the study and really participated with great pride in knowing that we were a part of something new and something very exciting. The same is happening in the cancer world and in pathology and in the intensive care units at this time. And so we're really proud of that as a community hospital. And we continue to grow our innovation, really to support exceptional care for the patients, not just in this region, but eventually to make an impact for the broader healthcare in Ontario as well as in Canada.
Thank you. How great to see innovation being pushed forward in a community hospital, and you playing yourself such an important role. Thank you. So next question is for Karim. This one over to you. So in projection imaging, you still have the issue of overlapping structures. Is the increase in diagnostic information you get with your imagers sufficient to take patients who would normally need a CT or MRI?
Okay, now that's a great question. What we like to say is that dual energy has a sensitivity and specificity that sits somewhere between a CT and a regular X-ray. What that means is we will enable the optimization of CT scans. So there may be situations where in a chest X-ray, there's something inconclusive. You get sent for a CT, and it turns out to be nothing. And there are some cases where if you don't have a CT, you're going to miss it entirely. With our device, we reduce the number of false positives because we can pick up things that sometimes cannot be seen on an X-ray, but would be seen on a CT. And so the way to answer it is yes, because we can show the soft tissue and the bone separately, we optimize the use of CT. This enables optimization of hospital resources. You can save the CTs, you can reduce the wait times on CTs, right? That's a huge problem in Canada right now. That's really, it's about making healthcare more efficient and more accurate.
Thank you. So one last, we have 1 minute left for a question, and it'll come to you, Karim. So what would you do differently in building KA imaging if you had the chance? Keeping your answer within about a minute.
I think it's really been a fantastic partnership and a learning experience. I'm not who I was, obviously, 5 years ago, but just working with them all, working with Sina, working with the great team at KA Imaging, there's so many of them on the engineering, sales, marketing, and the regulatory side. I don't know if I would change anything. I'm actually really happy with the way things have turned out, and difficulties come and we overcome them, and that's, I think, part of the joy of growing.
Oh, thank you. So there's one last question that came in that I'll take, and I'll try and be quick. I know we're coming to the close of the half hour before I say our thank yous and goodbyes. But so a question came in advance through the webinar registration system from one of our new GEDI Exchange members. So I'll take this one. So somewhat abbreviated, we were asked how their CEO peer-to-peer community of over 400 member executives and community champions could promote more collaboration between its company founders, spin-offs and scale-ups, and the university through GEDI. So I think this is a really great question. It really gets to the core of why the university established GEDI a couple of years ago. GEDI, as you know, is the corporate engagement office of the university. I think every organization, particularly both of you on this webinar know, every organization should be asking itself, what value it offers and how can we do this better or make things better. So the University of Waterloo is full of researchers like you, Professor Karim, keenly in tune with that. I think many companies originating out of the University of Waterloo were founded on such research. But as you know, like staying on the leading edge of research and innovation, it's a constant process of renewal. So, the university wants to help companies remain relevant, either with further research or with connections that we can make through GEDI to other GEDI Exchange members. That's really GEDI's value proposition. So the path forward is going to be different for every single company. I think they need to think about what do they need to do to stay ahead and to differentiate, and then give us a call here at the university, give GEDI a call, and we'll talk to the company about what are your goals, what are you trying to achieve, and then we can be a conduit into the university for bringing whatever introductions and activities that make sense for that company. And it could be from certain research from certain faculties, interdisciplinary research institutes or other units involved, the ecosystem as appropriate. I think the first step is really to learn more about GEDI and the exchange. So it's a perfect segue because we'll be showing a short video coming up on what it's all about and how we can help. So with that, I'd like to wrap things up. We're a minute over. I really want to thank you very much, the audience, for joining us, but a huge thank you to Karim and to Carla Girolametto. Your insights and expertise are so appreciated, and the work you're doing is so important. So thank you. If the audience would like to exchange some thoughts with KA Imaging or with Carla, please let us know. Your contact info is not shared outside of the university, so we'll only make introductions at your request. But perhaps if you have questions or heard something today that intrigued you to explore further, I invite you to reach out to me, Bridget Maloney. You can find my email on the GEDI homepage. And we're going to do, based on feedback last time, the last webinar we did, we're going to do a repeat of what we did last time. So again, as I mentioned, for those of you not familiar with GEDI or the exchange and you want to learn more, just stay on for a few more minutes, and we have a short video that will play that'll describe that and describe how it could benefit a company. Welcome. My name is Bridget Maloney, and I'm GEDI's Managing Director. GEDI is the gateway for enterprises to discover innovation, established here at the University of Waterloo. It's the university's corporate engagement office. First, some quick facts about this great institution. UWaterloo is committed to being a global powerhouse for commercializing research, developing new enterprises, and supporting business growth. GEDI helps companies worldwide explore the innovative work, unique initiatives, and multitude of activities underway at our university, and to develop long-lasting and mutually beneficial university-company partnerships. GEDI is a door into the university for companies that want to engage across research, technology development via our commercialization office, hiring, corporate education, startups, strategic giving, joint R&D labs. It could also include establishing a partner suite at GEDI, increased profile on campus, and more. And the entire university ecosystem to uncover and highlight all of the research and activities that could support your company, working with all of the university's 6 faculties, its schools, research centers and institutes, startups, and more. We will bring to your attention UWaterloo's full research and innovation capacity as it aligns with your company. We'll introduce you to the right people and strategically manage activities, building toward a long-term, mutually beneficial and successful partnership. Any company can connect with the university through GEDI. Navigating a university can be daunting and confusing. We'll help uncover the university's full innovation capacity in a curated manner for you. We'll help to simplify your interaction with the university. For example, we understand the university's structure and functioning when it comes to partnerships with companies. GEDI represents the entire university when it creates connections for a company like yours. We assess and consider the elements of the potential collaboration prior to connecting with all relevant people at the university. Now let me introduce the Exchange. The GEDI Exchange is a program run by GEDI. GEDI Exchange is an ecosystem that fosters high-value interaction among principally UWaterloo affiliated startups and scale-ups, with GEDI's large corporate partners and with our researchers and technologies. We make introductions among Exchange members. We deliver programming of interest to our members, such as webinars that spotlight companies who are members of the Exchange and their technologies. GEDI Exchange is free to join for startups and scale-ups. The Exchange provides a platform for new partnerships to form among companies and with the university. Benefits of the Exchange can include the following. As the Corporate Engagement Office of the University, GEDI works closely with companies of all sizes and with university research and other stakeholders to foster introductions and develop mutually beneficial partnerships. Whether we're all working remotely or in person, we need connections with each other to uncover collaboration opportunities that really advance the mission of both organizations. GEDI and the GEDI Exchange promote these connections between the university and companies and among companies of all sizes so that win-win collaborations are realized. Connect with GEDI, and an experienced client manager will work with you to take a comprehensive approach to understanding your company's business, its needs, and goals. I look forward to hearing from you if you'd like to learn more.